Sounds awesome. So what do we have here? We have 9:30 on the nose. Let's get the show started.
Very cool. So Remax Select, super excited to be here. I'm Tom Toole. I don't know if Rob had filled you in. So just to give you a little idea on my background, I've been in real estate 22 years. I was selling 90 homes a year personally for 10 years straight. We've got a 50 plus person sales team. We're on pace to do about 700 sales this year. We've done about 1,000 over the past 24 months. So, we're all about setting goals, following the data, and engaging in income producing activities. So that's something you guys are excited to talk about today? How to sell more houses? All right, good. I'm seeing some nods. I appreciate it. Zoom calls are always a little funky. So the first thing I'm going to ask everybody here, and we're big believers in an entrepreneurial operating system. We've self-implemented it. If you haven't read the books, Traction, Rocket Fuel are great places to start. And what it's all about is, there's all these components you can look at. One is right person in the right seat. Are you doing the best thing for yourself? Are you focusing on your highest and best use of time, which is something I would imagine is a struggle for a lot of people because it's a struggle for a lot of real estate agents. So that's going to be number one. So we're going to talk about that. How can you focus on your highest and best use of time? And then are you tracking your data? Do you know what's making you money? Do you know where you're profitable in your business? Because I would imagine there's some people on the call here. We got a lot of people, so thanks for showing up. You've probably got a lead pillar in your business that you think is making you a lot of money, and it's not. And there's others that are more profitable that you're not spending time on. Everyone follow me on this? So I think that's something we want to kind of get real with. You want to look at the brutal facts, look at your numbers, track your data, because when you track and measure, the data doesn't lie. And the data is going to tell you a lot about where your business is going and where you want to get to. So, and there's a lot of components with EOS. I'm going to share a slide here, Rob. Just give me 1 second while I do this, because EOS, you can run any business model on this. So it doesn't matter if you're a single agent, small team, big team, has nothing to do with that. It's all about getting traction in your business in the areas that are going to make you money and be successful. That's really the focus here. So I just made a presentation about this, the Tom Ferry Elite Retreat earlier in the week, and this is exactly what we talked about. So the timing couldn't be better. Let me get to the slide here. I'm just going to show you kind of the foundations of this, because if you're not focused on these foundations, then it's going to create a challenge for you. So let me see if I can share the screen. Perfect. All right.
And
so
EOS, for those just logging on, is Entrepreneurial Operating Systems.
Yes, and it's really 6 key components that must be managed and strengthened to be a great business, right? So you got your business in the middle here. You can see these 6 components. And I'm not going to get into presentation mode here. I just want to show you this in particular. So you got your vision, right? Where do you want to get to? What's the game plan? Where are you trying to go? So our vision and our 3-year target is to get to 150 agents all making $100,000 a year on our team, take-home income. So when you set that vision, does that sound like pretty clear and concise and folks know where you're trying to get to? Right? Do you get the point with that? Like, it's very clear. It's based on time. It's based on numbers. Then we've got the data. So we literally track and measure as much as we can. We look at how many appointments our agents are going on, how many conversations they're having a day, how many appointments that they're setting, and what the show rate is, what their listings taken ratio is. There's all these KPIs, and I can go over that as much as you need to. You want to build a scorecard, because there's going to be things in your business that matter a lot more than others. For real estate agents, I can break it down for you. It's pretty easy. Conversations that you're having, phone calls that you're making. If you want to track texts and emails, that's fine. I'm a big believer in 2-way conversations. I'm going to keep it simple. Conversations and dials, right? Those are kind of the lead indicators. You can control those. Then, how many appointments are you setting? How many appointments actually happen? And how many sales are you closing? Now, you may want to break this down on like the buy side and the sell side, because those numbers are going to be a little different. But you're getting from the activities, which is phone calls, conversations, texts, all that stuff. Then you've got the objectives, which are appointments set, appointments met, and clients signed. And then there's the results, which are the sales. but you can't just jump to the sales. That's what everybody wants to do. They want to, I got to sell 5 homes this month. Well, what are your activities that you're going to get that are going to get you there? That's the question. So you want to look at activities, objectives, and then the results. Those 3 columns are going to go a long way. So that's where the data comes in. Then you got to have your process. So the process is, here's exactly what I do every time I set a listing appointment. Here's exactly what I do every time I set a buyer appointment, right? And if you deviate from the process, or your team or your admin staff or whoever deviates from the process, you know what happens? You don't get the predicted result. So what I can tell you is I have a 71% listing sign rate for my career, and I've got a 4-step pre-listing process that we go through every single time. So that way we know that we're going to be able to position ourselves to get the listing signed 7 out of 10 times. What we find is when people struggle with that on our team, they're skipping steps in the process, right? So as soon as the appointment's set, we send a pre-appointment video with a resume, reviews, marketing plan, and it's all personalized and it's emailed over. Then we pre-qualify them and we confirm the appointment and ask some questions so we know exactly what we're walking into. Then we show up on time. We show up prepped and ready to go. And I show up dressed looking for an interview. I'm wearing a shirt and tie and a jacket every single appointment I go on. That's how we do things here. And then we deliver on the appointment because we've practiced it and we use the script. If you take all those steps, that's a process, right? It's very clear, very documented, and everyone should be following it. So that's component number 3. The actual traction in your business, I'm going to save for last. We talked about right people in the right seat. And the reality is A players like to work together and they don't tolerate B work, right? So I'm sure some of you, I've gone through this a million times. You hire somebody and you're like, man, this person just isn't getting it. And those people need to get it, understand it, want the job, and have the capacity to do it. That's what defines the right person in the right seat. They get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. Because we've all probably met people like they really want the job, but they don't understand the job. Or they understand the job, they want the job, but they don't have the capacity to do it. Or worse, they have the capacity to do it and they understand it, but they don't want it, right? Like it's got to be all 3. You got to check all 3 boxes there. And we've had that happen here. We have an amazing sales manager on our team. He's got 37 years of management experience, sold 50 homes with us his first 2 years. That was in 2021. So he gets it, he wants it, and he has the capacity to do it. The same with our operations manager. Now, we had a previous sales leader that wanted it. I'm not sure if he got it all the time, and I definitely didn't have the capacity to do it, so we had to coach him out. Nothing personal. We're running a business here, right? So that's what the right person in the right seat means, because there's some people that are good at some things, and they're horrible at others. That's where highest and best use of time comes in, and for me, my highest and best use of time and what we try to have me do the most of on the team is getting people to meet with me and getting them to say yes. So that applies to a lot of different things. Could be listings, could be recruits, could be a number of different things, but I get people to meet with me and I get them to say yes. I'm bad at a lot of other stuff. So the more I can do that, the more it's going to drive productivity. So those are kind of the conceptual 4. And let me get into the other 2 here, and then we'll get into how you can set up your own rock. So issues, right? Issues are things that come up in the business. The worst thing you can do in a business is do an end run. So I don't know if we got any football fans here, but you ever seen like the play where the quarterback gets it, the receiver comes around, they call it an end around and try to avoid everybody and trick them? Or we got any parents on the call here? You ever have like your kid ask you something after the other parent told them no, right? That's an end run. Happens to me all the time, but they're kids, so that's fine. So you put the issues into a meeting format, and there's a once a week meeting. It's called a level 10 meeting. It's run with an agenda and it's timed, because I bet you a lot of your meetings are lasting way too long. So there's a cadence to it. There's an agenda. It's timed. There's a shot clock on there. And what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to set up the issues. You talk about them and you IDS them. You identify the issue, you discuss it, and then you come up with a solution. That eliminates all the bullshit that happens, right? He said this, she said that. No one's got time for that, right? I mean, I certainly don't. So those issues lists are going to be pretty helpful. And then lastly, it comes down to traction. And the traction is the rocks in the meeting poles, right? So does anyone have any like, we can get rid of this slide here. So does anyone have any rocks? Do you know what I'm talking about right now? Can I see like a show of hands? Anyone want to jump in? All right, so Rob does, no surprise. Besides Rob, anyone here got like a rock or something that they look to accomplish every day in their business, or like any specific goals? Anybody? All right, Rob, can I just start calling on people here? We got a lot of people with their cameras off too. Ugh. All right.
Yeah.
So
Why don't you ask? Why don't you ask if everybody is possible to put your camera on?
if you can get your cameras
And
on here, I have the slide up. I hate that.
and Tom, I think the rocks are the big things you're looking to accomplish. So
Love
maybe
it.
they didn't connect the rocks, but who has like the big things that you want to accomplish that you want to share on a daily basis that are going to change the trajectory of your business? I'll call on Mike Luzzy if nobody volunteers.
Rob, I'll jump in. The one thing I want to do is be more consistent. It's a big boogaboo for me.
Okay, that's Bobby Golden. I can tell by the voice.
So Bobby, that's a great goal. So I'll jump in here, Rob. I'll take it. That's a great goal. Consistency is the name of the game. Here's the challenge with that. What does that even mean? Like, I know what it means fundamentally, but a rock is something, and I'm going to show you mine. These are up in my, I got to blur this here for you. But being consistent is great, but it's got to be a specific and measurable goal that's time-based. You guys follow me on this? So how much by when? So being more consistent, absolutely. But what do you want to be more consistent with? Do you want to work out 5 days a week? Do you want to have 15 conversations a day? Do you want to go on a certain amount of appointments a week? There's a lot of ways you can be more consistent. So you want to get more specific there. I love it. And consistency is the name of the game, by the way. So that's the right place to be thinking. So let me show you my rocks, right? This is what I have to accomplish here. And I have this on a index card that is next to my desk and one at home. So I need to set one recruiting appointment a day and one listing appointment a day and get 5 a week, right? That's what all this stuff means. It's kind of written in code. Then we have our big goals, what we're trying to get to, written at the bottom. We have a minimum acceptable number of transactions of 700 this year at our team, a stretch goal of 1,000, and then our 3-year target of getting to 150 agents, all making $100,000 a year. So does that sound more specific and more measurable than be more consistent? And Bobby,
Yes.
I'm not picking on you here. I love that you volunteered. It's just we're trying to help you guys. So
No, you're being very specific, which makes a lot of sense.
And so here's what you want to do, right? So a rock, everyone should have no more than 3 rocks. That's your magic number. So because what happens is, you ever met someone that has like 10 goals and then somebody has 0? You know what they have in common? They get absolutely nothing done because 10's too many, right? So if you're trying to do more than 3 things, you're not going to be able to do them well. So does everyone have a transaction goal for the year? How many homes you want to sell?
Yes.
Right? Like that's where it starts.
I think most of us do, yes.
Perfect. So that's where it starts, right? So that's your transaction goal. But then you got to look at what are the activities and behaviors I need to engage in to hit that transaction goal. And this is where the tracking and measuring component is so important. Who here tracks their numbers right now? Can I see some hands? All right, so I'm seeing so it's about 50%. That's actually pretty good. Most people don't even do that. So when we track our numbers, and I'll just show you we use a program called CSU. It doesn't really matter what you use as long as you're doing it. So I'll show you my personal lead generation numbers.
Get all the new deals on the board.
Gotta erase some of that stuff. We'll do that later.
All right, good. All right, that's a good start. So, but we want to track the lead indicators, right? Like that's going to be the key here. So let me pull this up. So this is just since the beginning of the year. And I have this even more detailed, which I'll show you in a second. So I've made 2,735 phone calls. I've had 534 conversations. I've set 15 appointments. 11 of them were listings. We took 7 of the listings, right? So I know all my numbers there, right? That's trending right around 70% for listings taken. We've got 15 appointments to 534 conversations. So I'm trending about 35 right now, which is kind of a high number, but we know that the market's a little locked up. And I've made 2,735 phone calls. So you divide that by the number of conversations. Every 5 calls I make, I talk to somebody. So I know that people are picking up the phone 1 out of 5 times. I know I got to have 30 some conversations to set an appointment.
Conversations, where?
Right here.
Tom, is this per week or is this?
This is through the month of through the beginning of January up until now.
Okay.
And I've set 19 appointments, and then 11 of them have happened. Right, and we got some that are coming up. So 534 divided by 19, I'm at, I got to talk to basically 28 people, set an appointment. So then you can figure out. Now it's a little difficult for me because I'm bringing agents with me. I don't have all this stuff, but if you're in the weeds, right, and you're doing these sales, once you figure out how many appointments you've gone on, to how many sales you have, then you know how many appointments you need to hit your goals, and you can reverse engineer all this stuff. So we just did. I did a deeper case study on this. I'll show you this slide as well, and this will help you. And where I'm going with this is, the more you track and measure, the less guessing that's going to happen in your business. Everyone follow me on this? So you're not going to be guessing what's working, what's not. So here's what we have. Here we go. Get these numbers up. Here we go. Perfect. All right. So what I did was I tracked some data from 2019 to 2020. So 2 years worth of data. This is all this does is help me. So I made 34,000 phone calls. I had 5,441 conversations. So basically, I had to make a little over 6 phone calls to get someone on the phone. I set 333 listing appointments in a 2-year period. So it was basically 16, 17 to 1 conversations to appointments. Part of that was COVID, right? So we couldn't even do anything for 2 months. We were shut down very aggressively here in Pennsylvania. I had 237 listing appointments that happened. So I had a 71% show rate. And I took them 3/4 of the time, 178 listings taken. So all that does is that allows me to plan a lot more effectively. So when you're coming up with your rocks to tie all this together here, your goal is to sell 24 houses, right? Let's just use that number. And I know that in order for me, let's assume all the listings are going to sell. So I got to take 24 listings. You divide it by 75. It means I got to go on 32 appointments and divide the 32 appointments by the show rate, right? So you get 32 divided by 0.71. That means I need to set 45 because they're not all going to happen. And then you look at how many conversations I need to have based on that. So you multiply it by 16 1/3. I got to have 736 conversations. Divide that by 12 means I need to talk to 60 people a month, right? So, I mean, it breaks it all down. Now, my ratios are going to be different than yours. But when you're coming up with a rock and you should have no more than 3, the first rock should be how many conversations you're having a day. Because you can't set an appointment unless you talk to people. Second rock for salespeople, how many appointments you're setting. And then the third rock is how many homes you're selling, right? And I mean, you can have those 3 goals. Now, you might need to practice your appointment. That could be a rock in your business. You need to practice 4 or 5 times a week. You need to role play 4 or 5 times a week. Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Everything is tied to math. And it's specific, and it's how much by when. So with your business plans that you have, figure out those 3 things that you can control all the time. Because how many times has someone had like a sale blowout and it had nothing to do with them? Crazy buyer, crazy seller, something happened, right? Happens all the time. Closing the sale, excuse me, is out of your control. What's in your control are the rocks and the activities you're taking, you're doing on a daily basis that are going to drive your business forward. So let me pause here. Do we have any questions? I'm seeing a bunch of people in the chat. It's just a bunch of good mornings. Any questions about this? Because I know I'm going really tactical with you, but the idea is setting short-term goals that are going to enable you to hit your goals over a 12-month period.
Can you talk about is it 5 Ps? I love that.
So there's more than 5. So how to identify someone that's motivated, right? Anyone feel like they got some people that aren't motivated right now? Right? Okay, you're all lying if you don't. So there's the Ds, what we call the Ds, right? So people that are dying, that are getting divorced, their kids are getting diplomas or degrees, diapers, right? Because they're having kids, diamonds, meaning that there's somebody getting engaged, default, they've got financial problems, they need to sell their home or make a move, de-relocation, meaning, and I don't know why, the relocation doesn't have a D, so it's kind of a joke, right? You guys, I'm not very funny, but that's okay. And there's dogs is another one. We see a lot of people moving out of the city to have a yard for their dog. And divorce, right? That's the reasons everyone moves. So you want to look at like how those things are happening in their life and being able to very clearly identify their motivation. I'll take it one step further with you, and we've got like what's actually a top prospect. So let me show you this here, because a lot of times you have someone, maybe they're motivated, but they're not really working with you. So we've defined what a top prospect is, right? Someone that's actually going to transact. There's 5 components to this. They communicate with you 2 ways. So they return your communication, right? Someone's moving to Florida or getting, they're getting divorced or whatever. They're not communicating with you. It's going to be tough to help them, right? Make sense? They answer the questions you ask them. So what are, what you're asking them stuff like, hey, where are you planning on moving to? Are you paying cash or financing? Whatever that is, they're answering the questions and not withholding information, because when people don't tell you what's going on, doesn't it make it a little more difficult to work with them, right? Like you're on their side. It's not the other way around. Now, these don't always happen. Sometimes you got to move these people through the funnel. Then they follow your advice. And because how often does it work out for people when they don't follow your advice? Typically not, right? Like, I mean, sometimes it does, but they follow your advice. They have their finances in order, meaning they've gotten pre-qualified, they got the cash available, they've got the documents together. And the 5th component is they know what they want, right? They know what they want to accomplish, or they have clear goals. Now, sometimes you meet with someone, they don't know what they want, or their finances aren't in order, but they're qualified. You got to help them with that. Or they're going to maybe not listen to you the first couple times, and they listen like the 3rd or the 4th time after they lost a bunch of houses. But those 5 components there, that's really going to help you to, to be able to do that. Tiffany, I saw you put downsizing in there, and that's definitely like, diplomas, degrees, same thing, right? Like, I mean, that's what we're talking about. So,
so Tom, when you get to identifying these, and sometimes when the conversation isn't two-way, I think, role playing, and, I was kind of referring to the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
I thought you said Ds.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's
proper
okay,
preparation prevents poor performance. Yep, absolutely.
But it overlays perfect into what you just spoke about, because sometimes an opportunity is before us and we don't have the script, and I hate the word script, but we don't have the words to show somebody that there's a way to get that accomplished without it being super stressful. And that's where I think the proper preparation, knowing exactly what to say and when to say it is so relevant in this business. And it's even more relevant now because business is not as plentiful, and you need to be able to parse and identify, who needs to be helped at this point in time. So I know you could probably speak an hour about that, but if you could just talk a couple of minutes about, like, are you still role playing with your team once they reach a threshold? Is that something that never goes away in the business model? Because I'd love to hear that from you. If I'm making 150,000 on the Tom Toole team, do I get a pass on role playing?
So Rob, that's a funny question, because the people that make the most money and do the best show up to the most training. I don't ask them to do it. They do it themselves. They're driven, right? We've got our top producers on a role play call all the time. We have a 4 times a week role play call. The people that you talked about, proper preparation prevents poor performance, right? So I went over all those prep steps, right? And we talk about EOS and having a process. The people that skip steps don't do well, right? You guys all know this. Like, I mean, it's at any time someone doesn't listen to you, it doesn't really work out for them. And that doesn't matter if it's an agent or a client or something else. So with that, we're always role playing, and we have a couple ways we role play. So we've got 4 times a week we got a role play call with one objection that we handle for the entire week. So like this past week we did I want to use a friend, right? Still hear that all the time. Next week I want to talk to the listing agent. I want to sell on my own. So, and Bobby Golden, the producing agent, attends Rob's Mastermind. There you go, right? Like, people want to get driven. People want to get better. They realize they're never a 10 out of 10. Like, I mean, that's just how it is. So That's I mean that's number one. And then secondly, twice a month we run what's called a market memorandum. So it's market statistics that you can use to bring value and follow up. Because if you're just calling your people, and Rob talked about proper prep, and you're just like, hey, I'm checking in, hey, I'm following up, that doesn't really do a whole lot, right? Like, do you follow me? Like, it doesn't really get people excited. But when you follow up with something like, hey, so I'm not sure if you saw, Rob, but Zillow and Redfin are predicting home sale prices are going to jump 3.5 to 5% this year just in the spring. Would that impact your real estate plans over the next 6 to 12 months? You see how different of a call that is? Or, hey, I'm not sure if you saw, but rates have started to stabilize in the mid to high sixes. I know when we spoke in November, 8 was too high. Would a lower monthly payment interest you in revisiting your housing goals? Right? And that's called an OFQ, but you got to be prepped with it. So it's an opening, a fact, and a question. So, hey, it's Tom here with Remax. I'm following up as promised. That's the opener. And then the fact is typically something market-based or something value-based. But if you don't practice this stuff and you're getting on trying to wing it on the phone, you know when the worst time to think about what you're saying is going to be? When you're actually saying it to a client, and then you're practicing on a paycheck. So a couple stats here or there. I mean, I'm spending 10, 15 minutes a day looking at what's going on in the market, and that's going to be the most effective thing for us. So, I mean, that little bit of prep work goes a long way. Studying the market, knowing how to translate it into scripts, and then having like that framework you can plug this stuff into, because it's OFQ, Angie. So it's opening, fact, question, right? So the opener is, hi, it's Tom with Remax, right? That should be everyone's opener on the call here. Don't ask how they're doing, because they might be having a shitty day, right? Something might have gone wrong. Like, it's just not, I mean, like if they tell us something's going on, obviously be empathetic, but how are you? Such an open-ended question. Then you lost control of the conversation. Whoever asks the most questions has control. So it's an opener. Hey, it's Tom here with Remax. Following up as promised. Not sure if you saw that inventory's up 17% year over year. Would more housing options cause you to revisit your home search, right? So the fact is inventory's up. The question is, would more options impact your home search, right? Like, that sort of framework is such a better opener than, hey, I'm checking in to see if you're ready to buy a home. Oh, you're not ready. I'm going to call you back next month. Like, that just doesn't work. People want value, and the agents that deliver value and information are the ones that are going to be able to do the best job. That help?
Absolutely. And Tom, when you go to an opportunity, if you go there with the expectation of answering questions, you just mentioned that those who ask questions wins. I think, like, we've been trained, hey, I'm here, I'm gonna do my pitch, and then I'm gonna answer any questions. And I think, the art of asking better questions eliminates their need to ask you questions, and it puts you in control of the conversation. And I don't know if everybody gets that, but it's a huge get, and maybe you can comment on that.
Well, most salespeople talk way too much, Rob, right? I'm talking too much right now, but this is a little bit of a different venue. So when you ask things like, like, think about like an objection that you get, and like you go through, and then when you go to a presentation, you basically, my view is on a listing presentation, you got about 30 minutes to win them over. And then after that, you're going to be able to read their body language or not. So your pitch has got to be down. It's got to be scripted. But with that, you get objections like, hey, I want, Tom, this all sounds good. I'm just going to wait until rates come down. Say, what do you understand about the mortgage rate outlook for the rest of the year? Because a lot of people, I mean, I don't know if rates are going to come down. I don't know about what you guys think. I mean, maybe like they're in the high fives, but I mean, that's such a loaded question. Or, hey, I totally get that we can't control the rates. So what sort of monthly payment would you be looking for? Because you can always, the payment's going to be the payment, right? Or they ask things like, hey, I want to use a friend in the business. Hey, totally get that. So tell me, what's your experience been like working with friends in the past? How long's your friend been in the business? Did your friend take the time to go over the process with you? Instead of telling them all the reasons that it's a bad idea, you're asking them questions to get them there on their own. And that's going to have people be much more likely to work with you. I cannot stress this enough. And then there's the discovery questions, right? So, LP Mama on the buy side, location, price, motivation, approval, mortgage, appointment, right? Like, that tells you all the things. To me, you want to even simplify it a little bit. You want to go ALM or ATM. And what ALM means is you ask for the appointment, you figure out where they're looking, and you get to the motivation, right? That's on the buy side. And then maybe call them again if you get an appointment and pre-qualify them a little more. I bet a lot of you are pre-qualifying too hard at the first call. Think about what Mercedes-Benz does when you go to the dealership there. They ask you for your finances, or they get you behind the wheel of the car. They get you behind the wheel, right? They want to get you feeling that. And I'm not saying don't pre-qualify. I'm saying do it in 2 steps and make it about the client. Now, on the seller side, it's appointment, time frame, motivation. Because if the seller doesn't know where they're going, they're probably not going to move. Does everyone understand that? Like, you get a seller like, hey, I'm thinking about selling. Where are you moving to? I have no idea. They're not moving. Like, they've got to have some sort of motivation there. That's why the M is so important. And you just want to ask questions around that. Now, a horrible question is, are you pre-approved? You can ask questions like, hey, are you paying cash? Are you planning on financing? Right? Another horrible question is, are you working with an agent? Or do you have an agent relationship? It's, how have you been looking for homes so far? And, with getting to the motivation, someone tells you what they want in terms of a house or where they're looking to move to. Hey, so tell me what's important to you about finding a home like that, right? Then they're giving you the motivation, but you're asking in such a much more professional way, and it's about the client. It's not about you and making sure these people check all your boxes and are worth their time, even though that's exactly what we're doing.
And Tom, don't you think somebody looking to work with a relative or a friend is basically the same mindset as a for sale by owner, because they don't see the value in what we can provide? And I think a lot of times we attack like the friend piece, hey, it doesn't work out, you might not be friends. But in my opinion, it's really, they don't understand all the value that we can provide. And if we're scripted, we know what our value is, that's easy for us to go into that mode and ask questions that identify the value, not speak and say, this is all the great things we do. Ask questions that identify where you're going.
Click. This is the first click. Just
I'm sorry, Fred, can you mute, Fred, can you mute everybody that's, and then let Tom unmute himself? Thank you.
All right, I think we're good. So, yeah, well, I mean, the friend thing, like, it might be a good friend of theirs, right? Like, if you start attacking the friend, that might piss them off. Like, I mean, you got to read. Now, sometimes it's like a fourth cousin they've met like one time at like at like Easter or something, right? Like, it's not always like that, but you got to realize that. And then you want to ask like, hey, so what have you and your friend done to prep for a real estate decision? Right? Like, see the difference in that question? Well, they're sending me emails. Well, guess what? Then you got an opening and you can talk about that. Hey, can I tell you why it makes me nervous? They haven't sat down to review the purchase process with you, the lending environment, the state of the market, and your goals. And then you can get in all to the different things that you do. So, I mean, it's asking questions is like the best thing. And if you go, the tonality matters, right? How you ask it matters. You want to make sure you're coming with a sense of help. And I don't know how to really coach that except practicing your tonality. And you're probably hearing me ask these questions. It's a little different than how I'm presenting on the call. How you say things is going to matter. And when you believe that you're helping people, and I am super clear that there's a ton of bad agents out there. Anyone agree with that besides me? Horrible agents all over the place, right? 87% fail. I've got an obligation to reach out to people because I know I can help them a lot better than most. And I believe in that. And if you really believe that, and you're coming with, I'm going to educate first and close later, don't shoot to kill, shoot to educate. That mindset, and that will come through in your conversations. But you got to believe that. And that comes with like all the prep work, right? Knowing the market. How many times have you talked to a client and they had some like really bad advice? Like, oh, I'll give you an example. We just met with somebody. It was a client's in-laws, and they used a friend, and the friend didn't show them anything, didn't have any comparable sales data ready, used like an iPhone 2 to take photos, all the things that are wrong. And I went in and I just said, hey, let me just help you guys here. Let me give you some information. And we ended up, I have one of these left in my office. We did like some pop buys, right? So we did like 6 packs of beer for the Super Bowl. We drop it off at the guy's house, helped him buy and sell. He's referred me business. Our team dropped it off, and I just get an email like, hey, my parents really need your help. Can you come out? Right? All I'm doing is building a relationship there. I didn't, you know, I'm not asking for business constantly, but I'm super referable because people, all the content we put out, the way we're touching them, everything else. And I said, hey, let's just set up a time to talk about how we can help them. Not let's get the home listed. Let's give you some good information and get you educated about the market. That goes such a long way in the current climate. I cannot stress this enough.
So Tom, I talk about like the obligation, and I've picked up from Chet Holmes' book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. He quotes, if you have the skills to help people, not to make money, to help people, you have a moral obligation to help as many people as you can. And I think that will resonate with some of the people who are, you know, super zoned into the helping side, not motivated by money.
Well, look, I mean, I'm going to be very honest with you guys here. I'm motivated by money, but if you have commission breath when you show up, it's a bad look, right? And if you have enough of a business that you're building, and you really, I'm super clear. We help people in this business, and the cool thing is we get compensated pretty well for it, right? Like it's not like it's the best of both worlds. But when you're focusing on, hey, here's what's best for you, when you got to tell your clients no sometimes. I mean, hey, don't make a move if you're not ready. You don't know where you're going. Don't do it. And you have enough of those conversations, and you have literally no expectation when you're reaching out to people, and you throw enough against the wall, the numbers are going to lay out. So this actually kind of like, Rob, this like marries like the data and the why behind it, because I know if I hit my numbers every day, well, sometimes, you know, I'm not going to set appointments. Other times I'm going to set one or two. Sometimes I'm not going to get the listing. They're going to go with a friend or somebody else. Other times I will. I mean, I just listed a home. It's for, you know, it's going to be a $10 million listing, which is like super high in our market. It was the person that cuts my hair's husband, and it's their second marriage. And I had her on our podcast. I promoted her salon. Like I did all these things with no expectation. I never thought she was moving. And all of a sudden, hey, we're downsizing. The house is 20,000 square feet. Can you come over? And I got news for you. We don't do a lot of high-end listings here. We will now, but like it was because I had a relationship and they trusted me. 65% of sellers, they list because of proximity. So relationship building will pay off in the end. And that's got to be a lead pillar in your business, but it's because we're putting out videos and content. And just if you look at anything we put out, the consumer stuff, I don't ask for the business. I just tell people what's going on in the market.
You know, that's kind of the same thing that the way I react at listing appointments. It's not about why they shouldn't use somebody else. It's why they should use me.
100%. I love that, Robert. And you know, we do live listing role plays at our team all the time, and it's funny. We're in one the other day, and our sales manager's being the seller, right? He's and we do that on purpose because we don't want to get too silly. And he's given the person presenting a really hard time about the commission. Then we go for feedback for the group. We had like 25 people watching. The feedback is, I would have said this about the commission. I would have said this. I would have said that. And you know what I told him, Robert? You got this all wrong. Your job is to bedazzle them at the appointment so the fee doesn't even come up. Because if you are that dynamic and they are that clear you're the best person, it's going to be like, how can I not hire Robert? How can I not hire Tom? And that's where working on your skill set and making it about them and making them feel comfortable. I mean, we had a listing appointment last night. The other agent told them a price almost $60,000 higher. And they said, this is too high. We don't like this information. We don't believe in it. We came in and we got the listing. And there was no question about commission or anything like that because we went in trying to help them. And we made it all about, here's how we're going to make this easy for you. They're relocating, right? And most sellers care about time frame and making sure the deal's going to stick. They're less concerned about price and commission. That's based on NAR data. Their top priority is timing and making the move work for 60+% of them. Great point.
So Tom, instead of like doing a listing presentation, right? What's your thoughts about the specific language? Hey, if we decide to work together, using that phrase, which levels the playing field. Have you ever used that, or do you have any thoughts on it?
I use it all the time, right? I mean, you want to future pace. I mean, I don't even use the word, like someone calls you to come up, and I think what you say does matter, Rob. I'm glad you brought this up. Whether it's a buyer or a seller, hey, why don't we have like a planning meeting or sit down and strategize how we can make this move work for you? Because that sounds like, to me as the consumer, right? They're already stressed out about moving. Let's strategize or plan this out. That's what people love. I mean, the appointment we were on last night, we sent them the video. They love the video. The agent coming with me was running a couple minutes late. We called and let him know, hey, you don't know how much that meant to me to tell me you were running a couple minutes late, because most agents don't follow through on what they tell you. We've sold 10 homes. We've been relocated a lot. We need people that are going to follow through on what they say they're going to do. So like little things like that, that's how you win the listing. And I'm like, hey, if we want to work together, or we decide to move ahead, we can launch it on this date. Here's that. We basically laid out a plan at this meeting. And the only thing holding up getting it signed was the husband wasn't there because he was traveling home. And she said, I'm going to talk to my husband tonight. Call me tomorrow and we'll be ready to rock and roll. So like but you want to assume that, but also it's all about them. It's never about you. I'm going to give you guys a story here. So not a story, but an example. So who here has seen any of the Disney animated movies? You're all lying if you haven't raised your hands. All right, so we've all seen those, right? They typically have a hero, a villain, and a damsel in distress. Is that pretty accurate? Like the plot line? I've seen all of them. I got 2 girls. My son, he's not really into them. We've seen all the other ones. The princess ones especially. Now who's seen Star Wars or Harry Potter? All right, so hopefully most people. So if you look at so you got the damsel in distress, right? That's typically people look at their client that way. And the villain is everybody else. And agents who don't prioritize their clients, they look at themselves as the knight in shining armor, the hero. It's all about them, right? The flip side is, and also the better movies, the more successful movies are Harry Potter and Star Wars, right? So in Star Wars, you got Luke Skywalker, right? He's the hero. You got the villain, Darth Vader. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, the early ones here. And then you've got the guide, Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Harry Potter, you've got Harry Potter's the hero. The villain is, I forget his name, Voldemort. And then you've got like Dumbledore, and all his like teachers are his guide, right? The more successful movie has the guides in there. And when you're the guide as an agent, instead of being the hero, and you make it all about the client, that's who's going to win, right? Great way to look at how you're running your business, because I've competed with people on expired listings. I'm the only, like, I get this feedback all the time. You're the only one that's like really nice and friendly when we talk to you on the phone. You're actually giving me some advice. All these other people are doing is trying to get in the door, and then they like slam a close down their throat. That's one of the most competitive situations that's out there. The more you can be the guide in your business, knowing you've got rocks and KPIs and numbers you got to hit, and you got to practice your scripts and all the other things, that guide mindset, that's going to lead you to a lot of success with the kind of clients you're going to want to attract. What kind of questions do we got? We got like 15 minutes left here. I want to make sure we're hitting on everything for you guys.
Tom, what does your new agents coming on board look like? Do you have like a hello week, or how do you do that?
Yeah, love it, Glenn. And I will send you all of this, by the way. Just reach out to me. We have a 2-week program. We tried like the 90-day program. We tried the deal-based program. And there was a lot of fatigue behind that. And my coach told me, hey, you know what's going to happen with new agents? And Glenn, you might appreciate this. Winners are going to win no matter what you're doing. And I was like, wow, that's actually pretty, I never thought of it like that, because running a team's a little different, where I think, the lift required to get some people up to production is a lot harder than others, right? It's based on a lot of variables. So with our sales leader that we got here, we tried all the other stuff, and we found that 2 weeks was kind of our sweet spot. So the first week, and we're like, hey, if you can't commit to this 2 weeks, don't even bother joining the team. If you can't commit to 2 weeks starting a new job, like that's easy. But like having someone come in the office all the time gets a lot of agents like to work from home, right? So the first week is all showing. So we're going to show you systems. We're going to get all your tech set up. We're going to show you how an appointment runs. We're going to practice scripts with you. All the basics they need to be able to go out and meet somebody in the field and not screw it up, basically, is the short of it. We have it all outlined. Then the second week they're coming in and they're doing all the things. We have them on the phone. We're listening to their phone calls. We're having them work the dialer. We're tracking numbers with them. And then we do like an announcement video. We do their headshots, all that stuff. And the goal is, we tell them, hey, we want you to set an appointment and be on the appointment by the end of the second week. Like that's your objective. Like that's their 2-week business plan. Then you're going to see who's willing to get on the phone or not. You're going to see who's willing to do the things. And our stick rate with a brand new agent is 54%. It's trending higher that we've shrunk this down a little bit. But I mean, most agents, like 75% of them fail the first year. So we're already beating the market, which I think is solid. We also recruit new agents that are masquerading as experienced agents, meaning they've done like a couple deals, but have only been in the business a few months. And those people we put through the same training program. I can send you the outline, Glenn, or anyone else who wants to see it. I got your email, Glenn, so I'll shoot that off to you today if you want it. But
Thank you.
we found that works really well because otherwise, like it's like getting blood from a stone sometimes. And you're going to see who's going to step up and actually want to be there. Because if all the team leaders on the call here, there's a high failure rate in real estate, and you just got to embrace it. I mean, that's just what we've come to after going through a ton of iterations of this stuff.
Super helpful. Thank you.
You got it, man.
Hey, Tom, just curious, who's your coach?
I coach with Tom Ferry.
Just curious. Thank you.
You got it. Easy question.
So this is
I have a
Emily here. I just wanted to share. You made me smile there when you talked about winners. My father was in the recruiting business before he retired, and his thing is he always said, "Winners practice winning." So you put a big smile on my face when you mentioned that, because I'm like, oh, it echoes everything that I heard as a child.
Well, I mean, but you think about it, Emily, right? I mean, some people, and this is the thing about real estate, and I know there's a ton of people on the call. Everyone kind of knows what to do, right? I think it's pretty safe to say there's a game plan here that works. I'm not the smartest guy out there by any stretch. I'm really good at implementing and follow through, and that's one of the things I'm strong at. And I'm also super coachable. Like if Rob would say to me, "Here's what to do," I mean, I was a brand new age. I was not licensed at 19. I was a total idiot, right? Didn't know anything. I had a mentor. He's still at our office here. Become a very good friend of mine. So I'm seeing some messages here about this outline. Just drop your email here, or you know what? Better yet, I'll send you mine. Just shoot me an email and let me know if you want it, and then I can reply back to it. But with that, I had this guy. I'm programming numbers in this guy's cell phone my first day. I'm out of college. I'm great. I got a college degree for this. But he really showed me hey, here's the stuff you got to do, and I just took it all in because if you think you know better. And, at that point, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I see something working. I'm not messing with it. I might make it my own or adjust it a little bit here or there. But the fundamental thing is to do that. Now, you get some people, they're like, oh, well, I know you make phone calls, but I'm not a big phone call person. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to. And I'm like, okay, we run the ball here. We run plays that work. And if you're not going to buy into that, then it's just not the right fit. And you're going to see those people turn over, and that's going to be almost 9 out of 10 agents. 87% is a big number. So I love that, Emily, because that was a realization for me hearing that from my coach. There was someone else had a question.
Well, I just wanted to point something out, Tom, that I've noticed throughout your presentation, and that is, which is obviously second nature to you at this point, but every time that someone asked you a question, you responded starting with their name. And I always felt that really brings people's attention into you. They like to hear their name.
Yep, they do.
Well, look, that applies to all our businesses, Rob, right? I mean, that's the deal. So, I mean, and also too, have you ever met a husband and a wife, and you were talking to one of them and you forgot the other person's name at a listing appointment? Because it's happened to me. So
Write them down for that.
I write them down, or you say it mentally 3 times. It's like a trick, and that's helped me. And it's also mirroring matching, but I've been practicing scripts for 20 some years at this point. So you do that, it makes people feel identified, and you're actually listening to them. So I love that. I mean, and it's second nature now, but it wasn't, right? It's a skill I developed, and now it's just something that happens all the time.
Do you have any scripts that you can share for trying to get listing appointments for phone scripts?
Sure. So the follow-up one is great. I mean, that's hey, Morgan, it's Tom Toole here with RE/MAX. This is what I'm using right now. I'm actually this is something we're testing out. So, and this is for sellers because all the money's in the follow-up. There's a Harvard Business Review study. You can Google this. It shows 6+ attempts are where you get all the conversion that happens. So just keep that in mind. Hey, Morgan, it's Tom Toole here with RE/MAX, following up with you as promised. I know we talked in the past about maybe making a move, and I'm not sure if you saw, but Redfin and Zillow are predicting a 3.5% to 5% bump in home prices this spring alone. Would those higher home values impact your home search or your real estate plans, excuse me? And then just see what they say, right?
Ask the question.
That help?
Yeah, thank you.
And, anytime you can bring something up about the market, I think is really good. There's obviously different scripts for expireds and circle dialing and stuff like that. So I dropped my email in here. If you guys need any stuff, just email me and I'll make sure my team gets it to you, or I get it to you, whether it's scripts or the outline or whatever else. I see a lot of people posting their emails. I'm not going to see this after this is done. So just email me. It's tom@tomtoole.com. Super easy.
And there's an E on the end.
Yes, there is an E on the end. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'll drop it again for you guys here. Just so and I'm super available to you guys. I mean, Rob, I already told Rob this. I mean, you guys need anything, Rob knows how to get in touch with me pretty quickly. And we're you know, I mean, he's been, we're here to support. So, I mean, we look at this as like a partnership.
And Tom, just share with everybody where your team covers so that if we have some referrals, we could send them your way as well.
So we cover the greater Philadelphia area, all 4 counties in the city. We've got South Jersey. We got a couple people that are in South Jersey, and we cover Delaware. We don't go down to the beaches, but we can hook you up with somebody down there. So we've got basically everywhere you guys aren't south is kind of the idea. So we can help you with that, which is another reason I'm excited to do this with you guys. I mean, I know Glenn and I have been working together a little bit, and it was Glenn sent me a video back, by the way. That was badass, man, because no one ever does that. Like, I send out a lot of videos. I rarely get one back. That is awesome, man. I love that you're doing that stuff.
I'm not smart enough to reply via text.
It's okay. I mean, the video was great. I just wanted to say thank you, and it was, and then I get one back. I'm like, man, this guy gets it. So that stuff works.
So
and I've
Tom,
got a face for radio. So I mean, you know, if I can do video, anybody can.
So Tom, here's a nugget from Glenn. His team is sending videos with their offers, and the agents are forwarding them to the homeowners to get a better acceptance rate. I don't know if you do that, but if you don't, maybe you should.
Yeah, that's been surprising to me how well that's worked. So we send it to the agent, and it's like, hey, you know, hey Glenn, thanks so much for the opportunity to write an offer on your listing. Our buyer is bam, 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 and it also this avoids like the love letter stuff that's going on. Like we talk about qualifications, timing, all that. And hey, you know, we're going to be really easy to work with here. Our team's been in business for 2 decades at this point, and we want to get this thing to closing and make it easy for your seller. I know not a lot of agents think like that. We're here to be a team and a cooperative agent, and would love to get this done. It's funny what gets, I mean, because again, the seller's fear is the deal falls apart, right? They don't want that to happen. That's one of the bigger fears and concerns sellers have. So we try to do video with everything. Deborah, you had a question. I see you got your hand up here.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. On the top 3 tools that you would suggest that we use, like I looked at, we have the BombBomb. I looked at the Dub that you had said, but that's like $4.99 a month. And then Opus was like free or $9.99 and things like that. So what tools are you using to like pull it all together?
So everyone should have a CRM that they use, whether it's the Remax one or, you know, I don't know what Rob set you guys up with. Everything should go in the CRM. I mean, that is like #1 because there's a lot of reasons. One, I've forgotten like the price I've told people before I'm going to list their house at. So it's documented in the CRM.
Yeah.
2, it makes it a lot easier just for you to keep everything organized. Because once you get more than like 20 or 30 folks you're talking to, you're going to forget about it. 3, there's a lot of litigation going on right now about email and texting and communication. We've had the state come in here twice with complaints about us reaching out to folks. And if I didn't have all the CRM documentation, we might have had some problems. We had one gentleman, he logged into our website 5 different times and said we kept contacting him. We had 5 different profiles with 5 different emails. We showed it to the state, and that was the end of it, right? And you don't want to, like, the state you just want to avoid at all costs. Like, that's my view. So it's going to help your business. It's going to scale it. We have a principle here. If anyone follows, like, Ray Dalio and his principles, we tell this to everyone that walks in the door, hey, if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. Because you can't count on, oh, I texted him through my cell phone or I called that. You know what? I can't track that. And we've got to make sure every client gets contacted here because otherwise we're doing them a disservice. So that's one of our big principles here. So a CRM would be #1. Video is great. There's a lot of things besides BombBomb. We use BombBomb. You could do that. Any sort of video software would be really strong. And the third thing I'm really big on, if you're making phone calls, get like a power dialer so you're not dialing all the numbers manually. I mean, this stuff, be wary of your state laws because I know Jersey's a lot different than Pennsylvania. Like, for example, we can't record calls here because we're a 2-party consent state. I know Jersey's only 1. So be mindful of your laws. I would defer to Rob on all that stuff. But a power dialer, some video software, and a CRM, like, that's all you need, really. I mean, you can get as much tech as you want, but don't overcomplicate it.
Well, you switched from BombBomb over to Dub, and the price difference was dramatic.
Yeah,
so...
we don't use Dub. We've been using BombBomb for decades, so I think you might have me confused with somebody else.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So you use BombBomb.
There's a million different video things you can use. I mean, worst case, just text them a video from your phone. Now, if it's a longer video, you're gonna have problems sending it. So we use BombBomb for a lot of different reasons, but any of them are fine.
So Tom, my last thing for you
Thank
is
you.
talk about discipline versus motivation, and how if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't often happen. If you have any opinions on that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show you guys my calendar. I might answer this question better than anything else, Rob. So let me pull this up here. So I'll show you my calendar for next week, just to give you an example, just so you can see what it's like. So, but here's the thing. I've got a wife at home. I got 3 kids, right? So if my stuff's not in my calendar, I got problems. So like my girls do competitive dance. If anyone has competitive dance girls here, like good luck with that. It's a real pain in the butt. Like I'm like, great, you made the competition team. Awesome. My son's not in a ton of, he does scouts. That's like once a week. Like we got school conferences in here. My wife literally sends me calendar invites because I don't want to, I mean, you miss stuff, right? It just happens and we've got a busy life. So this is what my calendar looks like. I've got all my calls in here, got a podcast I film, interviews, listing appointments, you name it, it's in there. And I've had to do that because otherwise, you know what happens? It's not cool with your wife when you miss something that you schedule an appointment when you're supposed to do something with her. Like I'm saying this from experience. Like, and I've made a lot of mistakes. As a kid, my dad was an agent. I was left at school till like 9:30 at night. So I don't ever want to do that for my kids. So, I've got some experience here. So I do that just to keep myself organized. Now, what you said there, Rob, I actually heard this. I'm a big avid Peloton rider. I lost about 30 pounds about 6 years ago. And these instructors, like it's like a coach on the bike. It's actually pretty, like it speaks to me. I'm one of those crazy people. And they said something where discipline will carry you when motivation can't. So Bobby Golden was talking about being more consistent, and consistency is rooted in discipline. Like I pretty much do the same thing every day. Today's a little different. I'm doing this call for you guys, but like that's not normally what my mornings look like. And that's okay. I get up at the same time. I pretty much eat the same thing for dinner during the week because I'm trying to, watch my weight and all that stuff. I've got a routine that I work out in the morning. I prep my day, all that stuff. It's not very exciting, but it's the same program that I know is working. And then I've got some flex time and some different things in the afternoon with appointments. It's, you can't motivate people. And some days you're just not going to be motivated. Anyone ever feel that before? Like some days you're just not feeling it, right? So it happens to everybody. But if you're disciplined enough, it's like, hey, I know I need to do this for X, Y, and Z, and you're really clear on what you're trying to accomplish and what doing that will do for your life. Forget about having a big why and like trying to save the world and all that stuff. Just think about what doing this will do for your life, right? I got kids I got to send to college. That shit's expensive. So like I look at that and like, I mean, that's enough for me to get up. And I also don't want to ever not be able to do something I want to do. I don't really have like a crazy life. I mean, like tonight I'm taking my kids out for frozen yogurt. That's our big like Friday night. Like it's nothing that I've got to go to dance class at 8:00. Like this is what goes on, but it's the discipline that gets me there so we can do whatever we want, which has value to me as a parent, as a husband, and also being on the other side of that. So I would work more focus on your daily disciplines, because then we're all creatures of habit, right? You build that habit and then all of a sudden it just kind of keeps rolling. And that's where we found a lot of great success. So motivation is going to come and go, and especially for the people with teams. Like you're not gonna be able to motivate all your agents. That's why winners win, Emily, like we talked about. So it's just a different way to look at things.
Tom, you mentioned you had 4 counties that you work in. Are they your farm areas, or you just you have no farm area, you just work those areas?
So your price points are a good bit higher than ours in Northern Jersey. And I look at farming as like an ROI positive or negative. Our average sale price is about $426. So, what we found is like with this listing I'm launching, like we're probably going to launch a farm with that because it's not too far from where I live. My kids are in school there, which is great. But we can't, there's no way you can farm that many places. Like it's impossible to do. We have a Zillow Flex account. We've got a lot of inbound lead flow. We also got agents that are in all over the place because they want to be a part of our organization. So we got people in Bucks, Chester, Delaware counties, Montgomery County, in Philadelphia. We got a guy that lives in South Jersey right over the bridge. So we're also going where our agents are able to service. So, I mean, it's, that's expanded as we've brought on more people. Our core business area is where I grew up and where I live, which is about, I think once you get outside of like an hour, it's really tough to service. Like, that's just my view. I don't know what anyone, but like there's a diminishing ROI on travel time, Ron. So that's my view on it. But as we've grown, we've been able to tap into some of these other areas. And if it's a listing, I don't mind driving to go get it. If it's a referral, like who cares? You go to the house once, you sign it. Hopefully you never see the people again or the house. I mean, that's the goal. All right, Rob, it's 10:30. I got to jump. Listen, if you guys need anything, I dropped my email in here twice. If you want scripts, Morgan, I know you wanted some scripts. Shoot me an email. I know Glenn, I got you down, but some other people wanted this like outline of like what this looks like. Shoot me an email, and then I will get that stuff to you by Monday at the latest. And anything else you need, just reach out. Like I'm super easy to get in touch with. Our team will reach out. Here to support your brokerages and your teams and your businesses. And Rob, appreciate you having me on.
Well, Tom,
man.
I am super grateful for having formed a friendship and a relationship with you, and I want to thank you for your second event with us on Monday. You helped our team leaders. Thanks a million, and look forward to a long relationship. Thank you,
Can I
Tom.
say something to Tom? This is Karma. Tom, I love the circle that you shared with us. It is really awesome.
Just Google EOS, and they will tell you more about it. There's all kinds of stuff you can find. Read those books. It's Rocket Fuel and Traction.
Thank you.
You got
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. I got
Bye-bye.
to roll. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.